Hi, my name is Dr. Hassan. Today I am going to discuss Bayesian classification and why is it so important for data scientists. Before we move forward, we must always realize that you need to have deep interest in the subject, a very high level of motivation and commitment. You need to listen, recall, practice, and apply your knowledge. You need to do lot of explorations on your own and lot of reading and research in order to be an expert data scientist. So it's not going to be, you know, a few days of work or few hours of work. It's gonna be, a lot of learning, especially over next few months. So let's move on. Okay. So, being a senior data scientist, and a technical manager, I do come across many software developers, many data scientists who are really annoyed with need for learning maths and stats and things like that. They think that they are never going to use maths and stats in their day-to-day tasks. And many senior software engineers these days have never used uh, you know uh, maths and stats, or they have never written any code that really implements mathematical and statistical concepts. So they usually maybe develop mobile applications or web applications that did not require any knowledge of or any application of these concepts. So they think that okay, this is a waste of their time. So and many data scientists come with the same mindset. So being data scientists, if you have that kind of mindset, then you should be prepared to change yourself, because in data science you're not going to succeed if you do not have a very good understanding of mathematical and statistical uh, concepts behind the problem that you are looking at. If you don't understand, what are the statistical properties of the problem, how to elegantly represent your problem as a mathematical, in terms of mathematical equations like linear algebra, and if you don't understand what role calculus plays in solving these problems, then you know it would be very difficult for you to implement any of those algorithms that you may need to represent. And even if you don't have to represent, you know if you even if you don't have to actually code any of those complex algorithms that require the use of calculus, statistics, probabilities and all that, even if you don't have to implement them from scratch, because there are libraries available for doing that, that have already done that. Even then, you would not have the understanding of the problem. You would not understand why your feature space is not adequate for solving the problem, what kind of features you need, what kind of properties those features need to have, and what kind of techniques you can probably choose to achieve the desired behavior in your in your problem, in your data set and so on. So let's hope that that would convince you to uh, pay a close attention to mathematical basis, statistical basis of various techniques that we will be learning as we move on. Let's look at the background and motivation for studying Bayesian classification. As we know, Bayesian classification, or naive Bayes, is a simple yet effective and commonly used machine learning classifier. It has been there for a long time. In fact, one of my supervisors may have used it as early as early 70s for one of his research papers or probably for his PhD thesis. So they applied it basically for, you know, classification of disease using given symptoms. And it was, it gave quite good results. In most cases, it is one of the first classifiers that you use to solve a problem. It is a probabilistic classifier that that makes classification using maximum a posteriori decision rule in a Bayesian setting. So I mean that gives us the idea that Bayesian classification can be used to solve lots of problems. So I gave you an example that it was being used to solve you know the medical problems, the disease classification as early as 70s, and in many cases the data scientists use it as one of the first classifiers. Sometimes they use it as one of the classifiers along with more sophisticated classifiers to actually solve classification problems. So let's continue with background for Bayesian classification. We know that many problems can be easily represented with a very simple Bayesian network. Bayesian or naive-Bayes classifiers have been especially very popular for text classification. One of the problems for which they have been traditionally used is spam detection in emails and other textual messages. So let's continue. Okay, let's look at CBOS-Solomon classification example. So in this example, we have got a conveyor belt where we are trying to classify between CBOS and Solomon. Let's look at how we are going to statistically look at this example. So in terms of probability and statistics, we are interested in state of nature or prior probability. State of nature is simply a random variable, and so initially we assume that the catch of Salmon and Seabass is equally probable. So they have equal probabilities. So this is our assumption about that. We are trying to basically uh, detect sea bass and salmon which we have caught from somewhere, and we assume that we can catch them with equal probabilities. This means that probability of omega 1 is equal to probability of omega 2. Here omega 1 and omega 2 represent sea bass and salmon, and as we know that sum of probabilities, that is probability of omega 1 plus probability of omega 2 is equal to 1. So that is always, sum of probability is always going to be 1. Let's look at classification scenarios. So in terms of classification, we will get started with a decision rule that only uses prior information. So we want to decide that okay, the class is omega 1 if probability of class omega 1 is greater than probability of class omega 2. Otherwise, if this is not true, then obviously our class is going to be omega 2. So based on prior probabilities, we decide between the target class being omega 1 and omega 2. We can also use conditional class probabilities or class conditional probabilities. So to do that, we get started with a conditional probability of x given omega 1 and x given omega 2. These describe the difference in some property, for example, lightness between population of sea bass and salmon. X represents a feature vector. In this case, this feature vector contains only one feature, that is lightness of the fish. Okay, let's look at this graph from Duda and Hart. We have been using uh, this book, Pattern Classification by Richard Oduda, Peter E. Hart, and David G. Stott for this lecture. So this is a this figure shows hypothetical class conditional probability densities for two classes omega 1 and omega 2. In general, if we have got more than two classes, then we can represent them with omega I. In this case, we have got only one feature, which is lightness of a fish, and vertically we have this probability of x given omega I. We can see that given only lightness of property of the fish, it is very hard to separate the two classes omega 1 and omega 2, because their curves, their probability density functions are overlapping. So this might not be a good feature to separate or classify the two types of fish, which are sea bass and salmon, and we are representing them with omega 1 and omega 2 for for a clear uh, and precise mathematical and statistical representation. Now we have represented appropriate background for Bayesian classification. So let's develop a mathematical formulation that can help us classify the different types of fish, or anything that can be represented as classes. So the main function that we are interested in is the posterior probability of the given class omega j for some given features x. So that is represented as probability of omega j given x, that is posterior probability. This is equal to probability of x given omega j into probability of omega j divided by probability of x. So, as we know, in classification we have a simple scenario where we have only two categories or two classes. So, probability of x can be obtained as probability of x is equal to summation j is equal to 1 to j is equal to 2, or probability of x given omega j into probability of omega j. The above mathematical equation can be stated as posterior is equal to likelihood into prior divided by evidence. So probability of omega j given x is called posterior. Probability of x given omega j is called likelihood of the class for some given feature vectors, and probability of omega j is the prior probability of the class. So essentially we are multiplying two prior probabilities. One is likelihood of the class for the given feature values, then we are multiplying it with the likelihood of the class itself, how common that class can be found, and we are dividing it by the probability of feature measurements, which is probability of x. So this would help us uh, find the posterior probability or probability of a class given some feature measurements that we have obtained from our data. In our last slide, we introduced a lot of new terms. So those terms were prior probability, posterior probability, and likelihood. We will repeat them here in order to familiarize yourself better with these terms. So probability of class given some feature measurements or feature vector is the posterior probability of class given some attributes or features or predictors x. Probability of class or probability of omega is the prior probability of class. Probability of x given class is the likelihood of the class, which is the probability of x given some class. Okay. Probability of X is the prior probability of predictor or features, also referred to as evidence. So typically what will happen is, given some, let's say Seabass salmon scenario, you have some camera, you take picture of the fish, and you basically do the manual classification, and you also note down their features. So based on those feature values and manual classification, you have got a training data. Based on that training data, you have already got, the probability of the class, the likelihood of the class, and prior probability of your predictor or feature vectors or feature measurements. So given all this data, you are then basically ready for calculating posterior probability. When you take a new image and you automatically calculate some feature measurements from that, then you can, based on those feature measurements, you can basically calculate the prior probabilities of features, you can calculate likelihood of the classes, and you can, obviously you have got the prior probability of the classes as well, and all this information is going to give you the posterior probability that you are interested in. Let's look at how posterior probabilities are helping us to classify between sea bass and salmon. So assuming that prior probability of omega 1 is 2 by 3 and probability of omega 2 is 1 by 3 for the class conditional densities that we see here. So in this case, let's assume that you took a measurement of feature, and that is x is equal to 14. Now looking at x is equal to 14, we can see that probability of omega 2 is much lower than posterior probability of omega 1. So let's assume that the actual measurement for posterior probability comes out at, for omega 2 it is like 0.08, and for omega 1 it is 0.92. This clearly shows that for x is equal to 14, our our correct classification or our predicted classification is omega 1. So let's move on. Let's look at how we are going to make decisions given the posterior probability. So initially we discussed and we saw how can we make decisions if we know the prior probability of classes. But obviously in a practical scenario, we will have some observations, some feature vector, some feature measurement, and we will use that information along with other information to calculate posterior probabilities. And that was the reason that we developed the mathematical uh, formulation for calculating posterior probabilities. So typically what we will do is we will compare the posterior probability of omega 1 for some feature measurement x against the posterior probability of omega 2. So if posterior probability of omega 1 is greater than posterior probability of omega 2, then obviously we will decide, we will predict that our true state of nature is omega 1. And if opposite happens, that is posterior probability of omega 1 is less than posterior probability of omega 2 for some feature measurement, then we will predict that our predicted class or our true state of nature is omega 2. Therefore, whenever we observe a particular feature measurement x, the probability of error is probability of error given x is equal to posterior probability of omega 1 if we decide omega 2, and probability of error is equal to posterior probability of omega 2 if we decide omega 1. So we are making a decision which is actually a predicted decision, and our prediction in a given circumstance might be the correct prediction, which is our accuracy, which contributes to our high accuracy rate, but it can also be incorrect prediction. So that's why we need to know the probability of error as well. So for two classes, we have now formulated what is the probability of error. Obviously, the probability of error is going to be less because probability of the target class is less than the probability of our prediction. Okay, let's move on to the next big challenge in developing our classifier using any technique. I mean, probably if you are going to develop any classification algorithm, then one of the challenges that you are going to face is minimizing the probability of error, or it might be some other, it might be some other function, such as least square or some other function, Euclidean distance. It can be any other, mathematical function that gives the distance between the true value and the value that you have calculated. So let's move on. So you want to decide primarily your decision function was that you wanted to decide omega 1 if probability of omega 1 given x was greater than probability of omega 2 given x, and otherwise you wanted to decide omega 2. So essentially posterior probability of omega 1 was greater than posterior probability of omega 2. uh, then your decision was, your prediction was that your predicted class was going to be omega 1, otherwise it was going to be omega 2. So using this information about our decision function, we are going to get the probability of error. So probability of error given x is minimum of these two probabilities. So obviously we selected the highest probability. So let's say we selected omega 1 because posterior probability of omega 1 was bigger than posterior probability of omega 2. Then that means that our probability of error is going to be posterior probability of omega 2. So using Bayesian rule, we can not only get a simple and elegant decision function, but we will also get a simple and elegant, easy to understand error function. Our next key challenge is generalizing all the things that we have learned about building a Bayesian classifier, or building a classifier using Bayesian decision. So we want to generalize this key idea that we have learned so far by by extending this idea to more than one feature. So typically you will not be able to make a good classifier with just the one feature. You will be needing a lot more features to build good classifiers. So obviously, the technique that we will use to classify using just the one feature will be extended to more than one features. Also, we need to extend this technique to accept more than two classes. So, a typical basic classifier that we will build will have just the two classes, but a classifier that is used in practice will always be supporting more than two classes. So that's another generalization that we need in our Bayesian classifier. Um, then we will take it further. We will allow actions and not only just the classes. In a few minutes, we will understand what actions are. So we will decide our course of action using our classifier, or we will try to decide our course of action using the decision, the prediction being given by our classifier. We also introduce a loss function which is more general than just the error or probability of error. So these are some of the key concepts that we want to apply in order to generalize our Bayesian classifier. In our last slide, we were talking about actions. it's not just the classification between omega 1 and omega 2, Salmon or sea bass, that is important to us. But the follow-up actions related to classification are also very important. So, for example, you know, there is a transaction, and you decide that transaction is fraudulent. Now you want to make a, a decision, which is your action, that whether to accept the transaction or reject the transaction. So based on value of the transaction and probability of the transaction being fraud, you can either decide that you want to allow the transaction to proceed, or because the value of the transaction is large and financial impact can be huge, so you basically decide that, okay, you are going to basically reject that transaction, and you forward it to a team of fraud analysts to look at it, to further investigate it before making a final decision. So classification actions are very important, and the consequence of classification action can be rejection of a transaction as being fraudulent, or rejection of the decision that uh, transaction is fraudulent and it should be stopped. So both cases are possible. So we flag the transaction as possibly fraudulent, and we allow the transaction because the impact is so low, and we flag the transaction as being fraudulent, and we stop that transaction as well. So both kind of actions are possible for us. So refusing to make a decision in close or bad cases is one of the luxury that the businesses must have. So if the decision can be, the consequences of that decision can be very damaging for a business, then although you suspect that, okay, there is a fraud there, or this is Salman, or this is Seaboss, but still, because one of them is a costly decision, and we are moving towards a costly decision. So in some cases, you would not proceed further. you know the last function states how costly each action is. So to allow us to decide on which action to take, we have an associated loss function. So this loss function basically incorporates the business logic, and it tells us how costly our action is going to be. So let's proceed further and see how we can, incorporate actions and loss functions into the classifier that we have been building so far. Let's move on and develop our algorithm to basically incorporate actions and loss functions in the model. So in this case, now we are moving on with C states of nature or classes. So we have omega 1, omega 2 up to omega C. These are our C classes, categories, or states of nature. Then we have associated with these, we have alpha 1, alpha 2 up to alpha A be the set of possible actions. So these are all possible actions for each of the classes. Uh, Let lambda of alpha I given omega j be the loss incurred for taking action alpha I when the state of nature is omega j. So we have represented, the next enhancement in our algorithm Bayesian classification as in a mathematical fashion. So we have defined, we have extended our algorithm to C classes, we have incorporated actions into that, and we are going to now mathematically, statistically define the loss incurred for taking action when the state of nature is any one of those classes like omega j. Now we want to move ahead and think about minimizing the overall risk that we have associated with the decisions that we are making, the predictions that we are making, the actions that we are going to take based on our prediction. So R is equal to sum of all the conditional risks, or R of alpha I given X for all the possible actions that we have got. One I is equal to 1 to A, and we want to minimize the risk. So minimizing involves basically R of alpha I given X. So we want to minimize each of the risk associated with each of the actions, and by minimizing the risk associated with each of the actions, we minimize the total risk. So R of alpha I given X is equal to summation of all the loss that we have got associated with each function. So lambda of alpha I given omega j into posterior probability of the omega j given X. So if the loss associated with our predicted class is low, and action, obviously our predicted class and action, the combination of the two is low, and if the probability or posterior probability of the class is also low, then our risk is going to be minimum. And uh, according to the scheme, we can sum up the risk, that the overall risk that we have got. So we want to select the action alpha I for which the risk associated for a given measurement X is minimum. So you may remember that X was your feature vector, the measurement that you obtained from your image or whatever that was. So R is minimum, and in this case R is called the base risk. So the risk associated with the action and overall risk associated with our model, our classification approach is minimum, and that is equal to the best performance that is possible. Now let's develop a complete picture for two category classification problem. So you have classification decision with loss for two classes. So you have action alpha 1, and you are deciding omega 1, which is class omega 1. You have action alpha 2, and you are going to decide class omega 2. Then you have a loss function lambda ij. So lambda of alpha I given omega j is the loss incurred for deciding omega I when the true state of nature is omega j. Okay, so the conditional risk then is R of alpha 1 given X is equal to lambda 1 1 into posterior probability of omega 1 plus lambda 1 2 into posterior probability of omega 2. Similarly, the risk associated with action alpha 2, which is associated with deciding omega 2, is lambda 2 1. You took action alpha 2, and your class was omega 1 into posterior probability of omega 1 plus lambda 2 2. So you took action 2, and your class was omega 2 as well into posterior probability of omega 2. So this is your the conditional risk that you are going to calculate based on what action you are going to take. So now it boils down to defining our decision rule. Our decision rule is now simply the following: if risk of alpha 1 given x is less than risk of alpha 2 given x, then we take action alpha 1, deciding uh, class, we have decided class omega 1, and we have taken action alpha 1 associated with that. So we can simply state this rule in an equivalent form. Uh, so we decide omega 1 if lambda 2 1 minus lambda 1 1 into the likelihood of omega 1 into prior probability of omega 1 is greater than lambda 1 2 minus lambda 2 2 into you know the likelihood of omega 2 into prior probability of omega 2. So if this is true, then we we decide omega 1 and take action alpha 1, otherwise we decide omega 2 and we might take action alpha 2 or maybe some other action. So the preceding rule can be represented as a likelihood ratio. So we decide omega 1 and alpha 1 if likelihood ratio of omega 1 divided by, you know, likelihood of omega 1 divided by omega 2 is greater than, this difference lambda 1 2 minus lambda 2 2 divided by lambda 2 1 minus lambda 1 1 into prior probability of omega 2 divided by omega 1. So if this ratio is greater, then we take action alpha 1 and decide omega 1, otherwise we take action alpha 2 and decide omega 2. Okay, let's move on and take up uh, another challenge, which is defining optimal decision boundary. So it's not only that we want to minimize the risk and we want to minimize the risk associated with decision of a class. We want to minimize the risk for taking a particular action associated with the class, but we also want to minimize, we also want to achieve an optimal decision boundary, which would further minimize our risk and further improve our decision making. So to do that, we apply a threshold on the likelihood ratio independent of the pattern X. So if the likelihood ratio is higher than certain threshold, then we can take optimal actions, and that really helps us to achieve, the best possible results that can be achieved with Bayesian classification. Thanks for listening. I hope it was uh, a great introduction to Bayesian classification, and it would help you a lot in learning how to build a classification model using probabilistic approach, as well as you can use the same fundamentals that we learned in this lecture to build, adopt, or enhance any other classification model. You can uh, feel free to ask any questions uh, that you may have in the comment section of this video. Please also subscribe, share, and like with your friends so that other people can also benefit from this discussion. Thank you very much.